You are watching Leicester Till I Die TV with Chris and Chums. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and Pinterest. All you need for everything Leicester City FC. It's Leicester Till I Die TV.
Please subscribe now on YouTube.
Broadcasting live worldwide.
And now, here's your host.
Right, Chris.
All right, good afternoon, Chunkies. How the devil are we all? The sun is out. It's bright and sunny. Go to the cupboard and it's bare. What is happening with Leicester City on this transfer window? We have no money by the sound of it. We have no signings. We have no decision on Tielemans. What? I don't know what is going on. I really don't. But I have a guest with me today who knows everything. So he will be able to answer all my questions. He's just gone white in the green room. But can I ask you, before we bring him in, do check out my YouTube page, Leicester TV. Please give us a subscribe and smash those likes. It does help the channel. And be sure to check in with Ant's channel as well. His details are below in the YouTube description. Thank you for watching. And if you are listening on your favorite podcast platform, thank you for lending me your ears. Let's get him in. You know him, you love him. The ladies will go wild. Good afternoon, Ant. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right. That's some intro, that, isn't it?
You got to live up to it now, mate.
Have you got another guest? Because you said you've got a guest who knows everything. So I'm assuming you can bring someone else in a second.
Hey, we're all Leicester fans. We all know everything, don't we? You know, we can't pretend we don't. We know more than John Rudkin. We know more than Brendan. But no, thanks very much for joining us. It was quite last minute, arranging it last night. Your details are in the description below, but just give a shout out where people can find you.
Yeah, so Ant's Leicester fan channel doing daily live streams now, talking about potential transfers in and out, which has been quite a bit of work this this summer.
I've been impressed with you. I've been thinking, like, what's he got to talk about today?
So yeah, it's always a good bit of fun. Like, we quite often very quickly put the rumours to bed and rubbish them, but yeah, it's always a good bit of fun. And then the home and away match day vlogs are starting as of next Saturday with Derby away.
Well, that will be. Make sure you got your cricket box on. That's all I'll say. Welcome to James. Thanks for popping in, mate. How the devil are you? I hope you are well. And as he says there, hit the likes and subscribe. Thank you very much indeed. Yeah, I started to do my. I thought I'll do like a daily news show, and I was talking about the same things over and over again. And for 4 days, even on the Mercury, the latest news was about Jamie Vardy wanting to extend his contract. It was there for sort of 5 days. The talking point, and we will come on to it, obviously, is the cupboard bare? Have we got the money? Brendan came out with a very interesting statement yesterday. We will come on to that at the end. Very, very quickly, 2 preseason games played. 1 loss, 1 draw. And I don't read much into the results, to be honest with you, because we know Leicester fans, we've won every pre-season game and gone on and gone relegated, and we've lost every pre-season game and gone on and had a good season. So the results are neither here nor there. They're usually there to help the new players bed in. Joke. What's your assessment of the 2 games so far?
The first one at Seagrave, I don't think it's really worth mentioning too much, because normally that would be a game that's not even broadcast, which I found it quite strange in the first place that was broadcast onto Leicester's website and onto YouTube. I was glad it was, because it was good to watch, to be able to watch football again. But those games that normally happen at the training grounds are behind closed doors. It was basically the under-23s with a few first teamers thrown in. First game of pre-season. Like, I don't look into it too much at all. No. But obviously, if we'd won, it would have been the biggest win going.
But even though it was Notts County, who I should say, of course, are the biggest team in Nottingham. Let's just get that right.
Of course. And then yesterday's game, there were, again, it's the first, I know we say Notts County was the first game of pre-season. Yesterday felt like the first real game of pre-season where you're getting the players back and played in front of an actual crowd. And I think yesterday was a good game to play because they start their league season, I believe, on Friday night. The Belgian league kicks off, so that was their final game of pre-season. So it was it was a very good test, but there were bits that we looked very fragile at the back for sure.
Yeah,
but I hope that's fixed up by Brentford. But the thing that did concern me more than anything is the fact that will be our starting back four.
Yes. I'm hoping that, and fingers crossed that it is just a case of getting them warmed up and back to knowing each other again. For me, I think, like you say, I agree with you about the first game. The game last night, yesterday afternoon, we have to appreciate they are a lot further down the line than us. And I think the fact that we were 2 behind and the fact that we were able to come back gave me a little bit of hope. We weren't particularly good at that, let's be honest. But we did what we did last season, and that was wait till the start of the second half and then come back. And of course, we're not going to be playing OH Leuven every week, are we?
No, and that, like as we say, you don't want to overanalyze a pre-season game, but because it is pre-season. But what is the concern for me is, like, yes, we didn't concede from a corner yesterday, but we still look vulnerable from them. Also, just it's like you say, conceding 2 goals early, like the amount of times before we go 1-0 down, and as you mentioned, then start playing in the second half. I'm hoping that's not going to be a theme this season, and I'm hoping, like in pre-season, we get it out of the system. Like, I wouldn't be concerned if it wasn't patterns from last season. I think because it's stuff that we saw last season, I think that's why I'm slightly concerned about it. But it's one like what we keep saying, it's pre-season. You don't want to overreact to it.
Which we do, though, don't we? That's the problem. But like I say, it's we've seen it before. Like I say, where we've done absolutely rubbish and then gone on to do well. It is very much a fitness exercise. Facebook user here, and there's no name, but it says, looking to get mid-table this season. We've wasted too much money on poor quality players last couple of years, now paying the price. James says, like what we all say, it's about match fitness and adopting to the manager's system.
To be fair, all these players have been here for some time now, so they shouldn't really need much time to adapt to our system, because it hasn't changed. Our system has very much stayed the same under Brendan Rodgers. The ideal situation in these pre-season games, and I know it hasn't worked out this way, is for these new players to be able to implement themselves, find their feet with their new teammates. But obviously, for reasons that we'll get on to later on, that hasn't been able to be the case.
Yes. No. And in fairness to James, he's not a Leicester fan, so he doesn't really know the full ins and outs of Leicester. Someone who is Spencer. Good afternoon, sir. How the devil are you? And he's in the Southampton Massive. Anthony, how the devil are you? Covered a bit bare and looking for some cobwebs. Yeah, the cobwebs that are sort of collecting on the FA Cup and the Community Shield from last season. I'm trying to think what your cobwebs will be clinging on to. Hope more than anything, I think, is probably the word. But looking at, you can see the guy I've got up there, and we touched on him before we came live. This is a player that I have always thought offered us something. I like him. He came on yesterday and he was going through having shots on target. He didn't score, but he seemed to be putting the effort. He was a player basically that watching it that actually sort of caught my eye. But I don't think we can convince him to stay, even if the other his countryman leaves. Can we?
No, I think his heart's set on going back to Italy, and I think the first time when he came, in the first spell before he went to Torino, he didn't really get the minutes, but I think he felt he deserved, which is why I think. And then this is just complete speculation. I don't think there's that relationship with Brendan Rodgers that he's got with a lot of other players. And this, I don't know how true this is as well. Apparently, a lot of his family are still based in Italy, and even from when he came over from Sampdoria, so they never actually came over to Leicester with him. So it wouldn't surprise me if he does go back to Italy. But it's like you said, I do think he could offer us something, but it's whether he would want to. But it's at the same time, if he doesn't want to be here, then there'll be suitors for him. We've got to be moving quicker because it's now the 16th of July,
yeah,
so 17th of July, and still not any movement. And it's a supply and demand market. We've got some players, but there's absolutely no demand for what we're trying to ship on. But the players like this, that there is a bit of demand for, we need to try and move them quickly.
Yeah. And I think in fairness, I mean, Torino want him on loan again, and we want a sale for obvious reasons. But I just, there are other clubs coming in, like you say, maybe we've just got to, if we can't sell him as a figure plucked out of mid-air here, if we can't sell him for 20 million, maybe we should accept the 15 and at least have some cash in the pocket if we're not going to play him. Because he's taking up a place where, you know, we could, I mean, we did, and I'm not comparing the two here, but if we, let's say we could get, and I can't remember how much we paid for him, but if we could get 15 million for him, allegedly Arsenal are after Kante for 17. I don't know how true that is. It's not a particularly sort of reliable source, and there's so many rumours going around. But let's say if that's true, you know, if we could get 15 million for him, God, I'd be in there saying, right, you know, find another couple of million from somewhere, and I think get Kante back.
Well, for me, as much as we were talking about this earlier, I would love Kante back.
Yeah.
Like when you look at our midfield options in that position, we've got Chowdhury and Mendy behind Ndidi. The drop off from Ndidi, who is absolutely elite at what he does, to then Mendy and Chowdhury is huge. I think that's partly why we struggled so much last year, because Ndidi's so injury prone. But once we play without him, the drop off in standard is massive. So I'd take Kante back, but I still think that a right wing and a centre back has to be the priority over a midfielder. Like the ideal situation would be to sign all three, but right wing and centre back surely got to be the priority.
No, I agree. I was purely playing devil's advocate there. I agree that it's not a part of the squad that we are desperate to sort of fill. I mean, indeed, he's injured again now at the moment, so he wasn't featured yesterday at all, which is not a good sign. Just as we're starting the pre-season, and therefore, looking back at what you just said, is it not a priority? Because, you know, if we're saying Mendy and Chowdhury aren't good enough, should we be thinking we need somebody in there as cover if indeed he's going to be that bad with injuries again?
To an extent, but the big word there you've said is cover. Like the other two are first, like starting 11 slots that are up for grabs, particularly right wing. I think centre back you could put in the same bracket as Ndidi with. So right wing, it will be someone to come in, start straight away. Centre back will be rotation and cover for Johnny Evans in the same way that a defensive midfielder would be for Ndidi. But it doesn't have to necessarily be like a cover. It could be someone who's like, if Levi Colwell, as an example, comes in at centre back, someone who can come in and, like, if he performs well, why can't he stay in the team? Why can't he forge his way through? So, but it comes back to this thing of our squad is too big and we haven't moved enough players on yet. And I think we'll get into this in a bit more detail later, but we've added a fair few. We've been far too generous to a fair few average players with their wages.
Yes. I am actually looking. I might have to get you back on because I'm looking at. I found a list of all the supposedly Leicester wages, so that made quite interesting reading. Just some. I mean, don't worry about the the defensive positions. I'm confident in that because we're looking at another Southampton defender. So let's not panic. We're fine with that. We've got him. I mean, just call us Southampton B for God's sake.
The thing is, I'd rather, and I know there's a risk element of doing this, but I'd rather give Ben Nelson the opportunity as a third choice centre back. I know there's the flip side. If he's not ready, it can really ruin a player's development if you throw him in too quickly. But it's just really what when Southampton fans are laughing at you because you're linked to one of their players.
Yes.
So something's wrong. But imagine if we've spent 30 million 2 years on Bertrand Vestergaard and Bednarek.
Yeah.
Jeez. Like, I pray to God that this is only a rumor, but
Well, I'm with you 100% with you on that. Having said that, of course, Vestergaard nearly came on and scored yesterday, so maybe I had to got that humble pie out the freezer again. Just looking at some comments here that people made on the Leicester website. Would love to see it Dennis Pratt stay. That's James Turner. Michael Reed, Pratt is class. LC Graphics, who do a lot of work on the different websites that we all follow. Can we keep Pratt, please? Samuel Barnes, keep Pratt, and we're guaranteed top 4. That's a bit hopeful, maybe. Fox to Fox report, Pratt needs to stay. You just can't let quality like that leave. And then Martin Smith, we need to get rid of Samari and keep Pratt. No club seems to want to pay what he is worth, and there's more to offer than Samari by a mile. But like you say, it's a case of if a player wants to leave and has gone so far down the line like he has, it would have to be a massive U-turn to get him to stay.
Yeah, and like the thing that would worry me is if he does stay, and like this could sound like really negative and defeatist, is that is he going to have been made promises of like playing games that won't be able to be fulfilled? That would be my concern, because we've seen it before where players have stayed with promises that they'll be given X, Y, and Z, and then they haven't, and it can one unhappy player can really affect a dressing room.
Yes, no, I agree. Right, let's quickly just go through some rumours, and then we'll get on to the big topic at the end. We're just going through here. Why are we even considering these now? Because if the money's not there, we know that there's no chance of getting these players. Benjamin Beauregard, could now Everton have popped in and have said they're interested in him? I'm trying to think who the other player was from BSV that said basically that if we don't hurry up and get him, then he'll sign a new contract.
Sangare.
Yes. I mean, we now, as I say, maybe we know sort of why not now.
The thing is, I think there's an element of truth in this that we're not signing players because of our squad size. Like, I do think there is a pot of money there. I don't think it's as big as what was hoped, but I do think that there is a pot of money there, and we don't want to sign players until we sell them. But this comes with a risk. This comes with a risk that players like Sangare will sign new contracts, and they will other players will move to the other clubs.
Yes.
The worrying thing is though, like we're not moving any players on, and like I'm gonna nick. I think this was Neil's analogy, but I could be wrong. If you were like, I don't blame any of the players for not wanting to move on, by the way. But if you were working the tills at Asda, and then you get a job offer from Audi for like a quarter of the wage, are you going to go?
No, you wouldn't. Yeah, of course you wouldn't. No,
that's like Hamza Chowdhury. Like, he's never going to get 60 grand a week again in his life. Like, there's a reason that Middlesbrough and West Brom are the only two clubs that are interested in him, because a higher championship club or a lower Premier League club is his level, and that this, as much as we've done right over recent years, and we have done a lot right, one of our big downfalls, and we're paying the price for it this summer, is we've offered very average footballers like Hamza Chowdhury, like Vestergaard, like Bertrand, wages far beyond their ability.
Yeah. It's an excellent point. Man United possible green light. Of course, they've signed Christian Eriksen, which so one of those players, James Garner, has been linked with the move. I don't know anything about him really. Again, these are all links, but is he somebody, do you think, that could do a job for us?
He's a player, and I'm not going to pretend to have watched Forest week in, week out last season.
No. I'd be very disappointed if you did.
I think I watched 2 games, and one of them was depressing as anything, and I was out the ground with about quite early. But
yes.
From what I have seen of James Garner and all of the reviews and stuff, he's the type of profile that I don't mind us signing from bigger clubs. A player that's got that potential to go on to that next level. But if we bring him in here, like we can develop him, we can train him up, we can improve him. Because say what you want about Brendan Rodgers as a manager, as a coach, he has got a track record for improving these young players.
Yes, he has.
And I think that I would take Garner at Leicester. I think he's a very good player.
I think you've got to look. I mean, you know, Muzzy is it? There's a prime example that springs to mind of, you know, a young player that's not getting into the first team somewhere that can come on and grow and be good. And like you say, that is what Brendan's strength is, taking the youngsters and sort of bringing them on. Arsenal and Leicester 5 million apart in Tielemans' transfer saga.
We've already dropped our price once. Like, we're not going to drop it again. If Arsenal want him that much, they'll put the money on the table. It's like, I think we've talked about this to death, Chris, and I'm not going to waste too much time on it. No. Like, if he wants to be here, sign a contract. If not, go. Like, just.
No, I agree, and I've said to Arsenal fans that have been asking me about it. You know, if Arsenal come and put a check for 30 million on the table, you can have him. You know, put up or shut up, basically. You know.
The thing is, we are a better team, undoubtedly, for a motivated Yuri Tielemans to be on our side. But it's if he's not motivated, if his head's half turned and he's looking for the exit door next year, I don't want him. I'd rather us bring in a James Garner or a Cocu or a player like that who's really got a point to prove and coming in to play because they want to come and play for Leicester and they want to play well, not because they're looking for that next move.
Yeah, everybody's saying this. It's going to drag on till the end of the window. I think Leicester have got to actually stand up to Tielemans now and say, look, sign or you know, I don't know what they can do, but there's got to come a point where we've got to say to him, look, you know, because we don't want to let him go for nothing. Let's be honest with you, that's the problem. But, you know,
the position we're in, Tielemans has the power, but I almost feel like we need to set a deadline for Tielemans to either be gone or say to him, now you're here for the season. It's like, I'd say, because we don't want it, as James says, you don't want it running into that last week of the window. So I think we have to set a deadline for any team that wants Tielemans. You either get him by this point or he's a Leicester player.
Yes, yeah. But, I mean, we risk losing him, I guess, for nothing. But then if he stays and we get back into Europe, it kind of balances out, doesn't it, a little bit?
It does, but that's the same conversation we were having at the end of last season.
It was indeed, yeah.
It's like, but if he stays and goes into that last year of his contract, but we get top four, it's worth it. But then, like, we've kept him for another season, got into his last year of his contract. We haven't qualified for any European football, so it's a risk and reward game. But like, you look at Everton, they've taken far too many risks.
Yes.
And it can get you in that position. So it's got to be calculated risks, not just a risk for the sake of a big reward.
Yes. Nicolas Pepe, this has got to be a joke, hasn't it?
I'd take him. But
would you?
The thing is, this goes against everything that I normally say about signing big club flops, but we should stay away from them with a barge pole. But because our options are so thin on the right wing, he elevates us on that right wing. I think there's no doubt about that. He instantly starts for us. But like, I know it's unpopular, and I know everyone thinks he's a bit of a you know what. But I would still be half interested in trying to dangle the carrot in front of Wilfried Zaha from Crystal Palace, because he's in that last year of his contract, and I think he's a much better player than Pepe. But it's whether Zaha sees that at Palace to Leicester as enough of a step up.
Yes. Hi to Nippon who joined us earlier. Thanks for popping in. Scott, good afternoon, sir. How the devil are you? Hope you are well. I think the club needs to be firm with players, especially Tielemans. Sign or you won't be in the Premier League squad. I mean, we've got to be careful we don't end up in a position where we're cutting our nose off to spite our face. But Pepe has been linked with numerous clubs, including Leicester and Everton. Arsenal should let him go for the sake of his career. No, I mean, players unfortunately don't always come to the top of clubs' thoughts when they talk about these things. Right, we've avoided it as long as we could do, but I want to bring it in now. Let me just get it up on the screen, and then I can put the overlay on and have a look at it. Where are we here? Here we go. Is it a case of, hello, old Mother Hubbard? He's gone to the cupboard and it is bare. I mean, he's admitted there. Let's just read it. Leicester City transfer business is on a hold until the club sell players. Manager Brendan Rodgers has admitted, but insists he will not go to war with the hierarchy over the lack of activity. He said he will never criticise the club and understands the reality of City's situation as they seek buyers for the players they want to offload in order to give them the financial wiggle room to bring in new recruits. If they cannot do that, Rodgers said they will struggle to compete at the higher end of the table. I mean, this is a bit of a catch-22 because he doesn't want to argue, but it's almost like he's coming out and not necessarily stabbing Top in the back, but going, look, guys, it's not my fault. But on the flip side, and you made this very, very valid point, at least we know where we all stand now. At least we can forget these big ideas of these 30-40 million pound signings.
Yeah, I think that's where a lot of the frustration from the fans have come from sort of who I've been talking to, is but there's been this narrative from about actually after the Forest game that there'll be this big rebuild and refresh, and even if it's not what was intended in the first time he said it, he very quickly would have realised what the fan base was sort of expecting from it, because it was absolutely everywhere. And he's talked about himself about seeing local newspapers and sort of when he was coming under a bit of pressure. So he full well will have known what was interpreted by what he said at Forest.
Yes.
And then he's carried on peddling the same thing every time there's been a bit of a negative result. So for me, yeah, I'd rather know that we're not going to sign a fair few players than have that hope that we are and then be disappointed. So at least we know where we stand. But at the same time, I don't trust Brendan Rodgers. He's like that typical politician with his press conferences. I just don't. I don't trust him at all. With like,
is he like the Boris Johnson of football management? It's never his fault.
I don't know, but I don't want to be. I do like elements of Brendan Rodgers, so I'm not going to maybe say that he's like Boris Johnson. We're not going to turn it into.
That might be going a bit too far, but using it as the analogy, he's certainly got better hair than than Boris Johnson.
But no, the thing is with Brendan Rodgers, he's a Marmite kind of manager. I think for fans, you either love him or you hate him, and I just think that there's been like a lack of responsibility for quite a lot, not just from him, but from a lot of people this last season for what a lot of the problems were. It was always Brendan Rodgers' fault, according to some. And according to Brendan Rodgers, it was always someone else's fault. It's like, just grow a set and take some responsibility.
Yes. And you can probably tell from my tone and what I'm saying. I mean, you're very much we've sort of sat on either side of the fence when it's come to Brendan Rodgers, and I'm not saying that I've climbed over and I'm on your side, but I am certainly in the splinter in bum part at the moment that I am beginning to wonder. But then, if this is the case and he hasn't got the money to spend, and I've been saying for a while, maybe what he was saying more was a G up to the players, and B, nothing's going to happen until we sell Tielemans because we need the money. And I say maybe that's true, and I'm kind of, I can't decide now because yes, I'm getting a bit frustrated, and I think when I see and I know they're only pre-season games, and I don't care if we'd have lost 5-0 to Leuven. It's the performance that I want to be looking at. And when I look at the back end of last season, I mean, all right, in the first game we were still conceding from corners and free kicks, but like you say, it was the youth team out, so let's not worry too much. But when we got all our players back, those last 3 or 4 games, we drew with Chelsea, we beat Watford, and a few of the others that were down the bottom. And yes, I know people have said like, well, they're only the teams that were in the bottom 5 or whatever, but there were teams that we struggled to beat at the start of the season. If we go into next season with the same squad, with out the injury problems that we've had, and that's a big, without. That's the same squad that got us to 5th 2 seasons. And yes, other teams have moved on, but if we get everybody back playing like they were maybe at the end of last season, I can see you're shaking your head already. Would that not be, would it be the worst thing in the world?
The thing is, our starting 11, and we've had this conversation a few times, is brilliant. But I'd say right now we're weaker than we were last season because we've lost Luckman. Whether you think like Luckman's a 6 out of 10, 10 out of 10, like wherever you put him, like he's a player that Brendan Rodgers rated, and that was shown in the amount he used him off the bench and started even on the right wing when it's not his predominant position. But everyone's saying if we don't have injuries, but injuries happen in football, and with a thin squad like we've got, you're going to like the more injury. Well, we've got a thin squad, and I don't like a thin quality in the squad at least. Like you can't expect to play the same 11 week in week out and not have injuries. Like if we don't strengthen the depth, particularly with 5 subs this year, we're going to have injuries, and then it's going to be the same thing next year. Oh, we were so unlucky with an injury crisis. No, we weren't. We were playing players in the red zone and well beyond where they should have been playing because we didn't have anyone to rotate them with. It's not unlucky. It's just like a level of a level of it was unlucky. Like Fofana, you could never account for. But it's like basic sports science. If you're going to play a player in that red zone beyond where they're in, like their optimal performance level is, they will start to get injuries.
Oh, no, don't die on me. Don't die on me. No, are you all right there? I mean, Spencer says here, rumours today that Tielemans is signing an extension. I haven't seen those. Whether that's tied in with the fact that Arsenal are after Shevchenko and don't want Tielemans, maybe that's pushing him into that. I tell you what, Ant, you go in red. I don't know if it's the sun or not. Told you, go to the gym. It's bad for you. Do not do exercise. It's bad for you.
I should just sit in the pub.
Yeah, well, look at me. I'm overweight. I'm unhealthy, but I'm not confidence fluttering up there. But no, I mean the other rumours that the Newcastle links have risen again. Like you say, there's so many things. I mean, if we could sell Pratt, would you sell Pratt and Keaton and get Luckman in? I mean, like you say, he did the job on the right. Left side is his natural position. And maybe if Barnes is going through a stage, obviously he can move over that way. Who then would we put on the right is the question. Probably Perez. But Luckman did a job for us on the right. A lot of teams play him on the right. Fulham did when they had him. Everton, I believe, did to a part. But I just want Luckman. I just think he's the nearest thing we've got to replacing Mahrez since Mahrez left.
My thing with Luckman is I would have loved to have seen him at the start of the window when we were believing that we were signing 4 or 5 players. Yeah. Now, would you be against seeing Luckman come back on loan for another season? Because I think that would be a more viable option for us.
I would love him. I would love him in any form.
Yeah, because I would like him permanently, but I don't think that's a realistic option. Because as we've said, there's obviously this issue around the squad size, but there's also this financial room to wiggle, I believe Brendan Rodgers has called it. So bring him on loan for the season. Hopefully we have a better season next year, finish higher up the league, bring in more revenue. But the thing for Luckman is I wouldn't sign Luckman over an out-and-out right winger.
No.
I think an out-and-out right winger and a centre-back, we should be going absolute all out to get that. And then anything on top of that at this stage, I'm going to call a bonus.
Yeah, no, I agree. But I think what Luckman offers is that flexibility. Even played up front for us on a few occasions. Another player who caught my eye and one who didn't yesterday, Sumare. And, we all see games differently. I kind of didn't see an awful lot of him. A couple of passes, maybe. Perez, for me, And you know where my position is on Perez. I've always said go, but he actually put the effort in yesterday, and he had he had as many efforts as Jamie Vardy did. In all fairness,
you say put the effort in yesterday as if he doesn't normally. His running numbers are right up there.
No.
But I agree. I thought yesterday he was one of the brighter players, and he's one of those though. Like quite often in pre-season, he does look quite good because he's got that natural level of fitness. But I don't think, and like is naturally quite fit, and at this stage of pre-season is probably fitter than a lot of the other players.
Yes,
but I don't dislike Perez as much as a lot of other Leicester fans do. I think he's slightly underrated by the fan base, but overrated by Brendan Rodgers, as Rob Tanner said.
I was going to say, he said exactly the same to me. Better than a lot of the fans think he is, but probably not as good as Rodgers thinks he is.
But I do hope he moves on to Real Betis, which are the one club that's had concrete links. But for them, they're in a similar situation to us. They need to sell players before they can come in and buy them. So it's like
yes. And I think that's the thing. I think because nobody's sort of been coming in with firm offers for him, have they?
No. And I do think he's one that will do quite well in Spain with a slightly lower paced league with a bit more technical and slightly less physical. Yeah.
Mumsy there, I do think you're putting your big wooden spoon in the old pot and stirring it. Can I just say, you've got your third driver in 2 years. Let's hope this one has passed his test. That's what I will say. So, I mean, would you be happy if Perez stayed?
I wouldn't be against it, but at the same time, I'd be happier if he went because we need to free up that squad place and free up the wages and the money.
And Samari.
I like Samari, but alone, I don't think benefits anyone, particularly loaning him back to France, where we've already seen he can do it in France. He smashed it in France. If we're going to loan him, I think it's got to be an English loan. So if he goes back to France, I think we've got to look to sell him because there's no point sending him back to a league, but we've already seen that he's competent and can compete in. We need to send him to a Premier League club or a high-end Championship club where he can really develop and learn about the English game.
Yes. I mean, I think as well, you look at the players that we sign, and I think we've had this conversation before. I was born in Leicester. I moved to Blackpool when I was 21, and I was working for W. Smith at the time, so I was moving up, like somebody that comes and signs for a team. There's an immediate sort of band of people that I could know, etc. It still took me a while to settle in. So when you're coming from another country into a new team that maybe says a different pace, different styles, etc. Some players, Fofana, for example, take to it like a fish to water. Daka maybe just takes, a bit longer. And then you've got Samari, who is maybe he's finding it hard to adapt and maybe does need that little bit longer. Would Soyuncu have been as good as he was when he came in for Maguire if he'd come in that year earlier?
Well, probably not, because we saw bits of Soyuncu in that first year, didn't we? Like the Fulham game.
Yeah.
Was it Fulham where he gave away a goal and then didn't later on in the year against West Ham, I think it was? It might have been West Ham. The team could be wrong, but
he got I get your point, yeah.
Absolute ragged. So you do need that adaptation period. And I think he's one that I think we're going to need a little bit of patience with him, but he's the one out of him and Daka that I have the less faith in to build that potential.
We've seen that Daka, we know what he can do, Goalkeepers, Schmeichel, Ward didn't travel with the squad. I did a Snog, Marry, Avoid show, as in a keep, loan or sell with Brad through the whole squad. Goalkeeper was one thing we disagreed on, sorry. I was very much want Schmeichel. I think he's got a year left. Let him go. Promote Ward up to the Premier League squad. And you've got Iverson and Stolicek, who've looked pretty good. Well, I say pretty good, apart from Iverson's coming out of his box and not deciding what to do yesterday. What are your thoughts on the goalkeeping situation?
The thing is, Iverson's a strange one because he's come off being the best goalkeeper in the Championship last year to having two absolute clangers. And I know we keep saying pre-season, and particularly for goalkeepers, they make mistakes in pre-season. The first one when he dropped the ball and the Notts County player just put it in the back of the net. There's a couple of ways to look at it. I think that's one that's National League, not a foul. But in the Premier League, if you're sort of backing into a goalkeeper, that's probably a foul against him. Yeah. But I did like the fact he was coming for the ball, trying to claim it from across. So looking at a positive there. Then yesterday's one, he just needs to be a little bit more assertive. And well, I say a little bit more assertive, a lot more assertive, and put that ball into Rose Ed. If you're going to come out for it, you've got to get there.
Yeah. But they both looked sort of, to my mind, not ready for the first team yet, but certainly ready to make that move up. And it's not an area that we're sort of short of players with. What's your thoughts on Schmeichel? I mean, I'm very much thinking last season, I mean, he was behind, one of the worst defences in the league at times, but he wasn't coming out. He wasn't in control of his box. He seemed to be, auditioning to play Dracula because he was scared to come for crosses. No command there. To my mind, I just think maybe we need to move forward. It's almost like the Banks-Shilton saga from the sort of the 70s.
Yeah, it's one of those with Schmeichel. Like everything he's done for the club legend, all about it. Of
course, never take that away. Yeah,
but it's like you say. At what point do we have to move on? And for me, he's one of the best shot stoppers in the league. But the rest of his overall game that's all there really is to his game. His distribution is, I was going to say average. It's well below average if we're being completely honest.
Oh God, yes.
I think him being absolutely glued to his goal line is part of the reason we're so vulnerable from set pieces. Because you see, some top keepers like Nick Pope, like Allison, but the list's countless. Keepers command their 6-yard box. For Schmeichel, he just doesn't, which leaves us massively vulnerable at times.
No, I agree. So keep or sell, snog or avoid.
I think just because of the situation we're in, where to bring in another keeper at the moment, we keep him for one more year and then address it next year.
Right. And you'd be happy if Ward was to go, because Ward's, it's a World Cup year. He's kind of lost his place in the Welsh squad, but he was Welsh number one. He wants to get the game time. He's going to be knocking on the door saying, look, I need to get game time. And no disrespect to Wales or to Ward, he could probably be in a championship team as a number one and still get in the Wales squad.
Well, my thing is, I think Danny Ward could do a job for a lot of bottom half Premier League teams as well. I think he's a decent keeper. Yeah. But at the same time, a lot of his flaws are the same as Schmeichel's. Like, his distribution's not the best. And I know people say, well, I'm going to try and do an old man voice. Well, if the goalkeeper's job is to just save the ball out of the net. The goalkeeper's role has evolved massively in the last 5 to 10 years. And particularly with the style of football that we try and play, passing out from the back, you need a keeper who's competent with his feet. So for me, I would say it's sell Danny Ward and then have a look at someone like David Raya from Brentford next year, or even if you have a look at some of the keepers such as that we've got younger ones coming through. But I'll say stay as we are for this year and then address it next year.
I think there's something that Brendan's not sure there, because he's only had one Premier League start since he's sort of come to the club, and you could say that's because he's behind a keeper like Casper. But even last year, he wasn't in a lot of cup squads, was he? Literally Casper was in everything. So maybe there's something that obviously Brendan sees on training. I don't know, that Brendan's just maybe not got that 100% confidence in him. The last one I want to just talk, because I'm conscious of the time, so I won't keep you after this one. They say the defence. We know we need an extra cover in there. We look so much better when Johnny Evans is in there. I mean, he had some got in some good stops yesterday when he was on the pitch. I mean, I know Craig doesn't like him. Craig kind of says, well, he's slow. He stands on the ball and doesn't get rid of it. But I think that's more of him holding onto the ball, thinking, right, where can I play it to? Rather than just, maybe the first option of somebody to the right. But again, and I'm not saying he's particularly injury prone, but he's of an age, a bit like Jamie Vardy up front. We've got Daka there, where when he does get injured, because of his age, it's going to take him that bit longer to get back. We've missed out on Tarkowski. We were in for Nathan Collins, so that's 2 Burnley. We've been linked with Ben Mee. Levi Colwell, is it? Who would you, if you come back, pick one defender that you would add to the squad? Because we do need, like you said before, we need another one in there, especially if Soyuncu does go to Milan or somewhere like that.
Yeah, Nathan Collins for me would be the one. But we've taken too long with that.
Yes.
And this is the issue we're going to have. Like, it's all well and good saying, just wait until sell the players. Like, all these players aren't going to wait for Leicester. It's not as if we're like a Man United or a Barcelona or have got that club pool. There'll be other options for these players, as there has been for Nathan Collins.
Yes.
I wanted James Tarkowski, but Levi Colwell was that profile of young player that who's already come off a very good season with Huddersfield, but we can bring in, though, improve and develop. And I think there's not many better players to have a season under than Johnny Evans to learn that.
Exactly, yeah. Totally agree with you. I'd also make Johnny Evans my captain for next season, because I don't like goalkeepers as captains, but
I would in a way, but the thing that I worry about with Johnny Evans as captain is how much is he actually going to play?
Yeah. Which leads us back to that we need an extra defender in. This is Leicester all over. We've had it too easy for a few seasons, haven't we? But hey, we wouldn't have it any other way. We wouldn't support any other team, would we? And thank you so much for coming on and contributing there. Maybe we should start a Just Giving page up for us. What do you think?
Oh, we could do, but we won't be able to go into the pot until we've moved a few players on anyway.
This is true. And thank you so much for coming on. Your details are in the YouTube description below, but just give a shout out where people can find you again.
So on Twitter &_LCFC for a lot of Leicester, let's call it debates, and also on YouTube and Leicester fan channel. So cheers for having us on, Chris.
Brilliant. No, it's always good to have you on. You're the sensible voice. I'm the old man, but I'm still kind of like dreaming that we can do things that we can't. You put me in my place. And as always, it's been a pleasure. Thanks very much for coming on. And you better go and get ready for your next show. You're in demand, young man. Thanks very much. Take care. Bye-bye. Oops, and there we go. And I am now split over 2 screens. You see, I need to remember what I'm doing with this. There we go. Right. So thank you so much, guys. Thank you, Static. You've just said you've enjoyed the show. I appreciate that very, very much indeed. Guys, if you haven't been out and subscribed to Leicester Till I Die TV, or been over, I should say, to YouTube. If you're not on YouTube, please do it. We're trying to build the channel. I know it's a slow process during the off season, but if you can subscribe, it is much appreciated. And if you are subscribed, or even if you don't want to, and I respect your option in doing that, please just smash the like button, because it really does help with the YouTube algorithmics, or whatever they call them. Look, I'm going to be back at 4:45. We're going to be covering Sweden versus who are they playing? Portugal. There's 2 games in the Women's Euros, of course. That is Switzerland against Netherlands as well. We tried last night doing a switch commentary where we covered both games. Wasn't quite as well as achieved as the normal show. So we're going to go back to just following one game, and we're going to pick Sweden versus Portugal as the game that we cover. See you later, Nippon. Thanks for popping on. Always appreciate it. And cheers, James. Catch you later as well. So that's 4:45. and then World Cup and all extra programs next week from Monday onwards. We will. Well, I have daily news shows at 6 o'clock, but there's been no news, so it's been a bit pointless in doing one every day. It's like do one every third or fourth day and just play catch up. Guys, just give these guys the support if you would as well.
Leicester lead again. The goals are flowing here now.
The Leicester Till I Die shop is now open.
For all your Leicester Till I Die merchandise,
Visit the Leicester Till I Die shop at our website.
Yeah, they are good enough to support our channel. Please return the favour and support them. Thank you very much. I will see you at 4:45. Take care. Enjoy the afternoon. Stay safe.
Thanks for watching Leicester Till I Die. This is Chris saying goodbye and see you next time.
Thanks for watching. These videos are tremendous. You better like them too or I'll be back.
Cool. I'm out of here. Ooh, that's a wrap.